here, if you look carefully, you'll see Tomer Dvorah across down there by Kever Shmuel and Avi. And I was planning on recording a shir for you today, and I figured I was here with my kids, so I would see if I could just do it over here. I don't know if you're going to hear me well or not, but I figured it's a nice view. You can kind of see the school in the background. But I wanted to talk just, I tried just to speak sometimes about halacha in the parsha also. So this week's parsha, you have the mitzvah of biyomo scharo, that on the day that somebody does a work for us, the day somebody works for us is the day that we're supposed to pay them. And there's a mitzvah d'oraisa, a mitzvah min haTorah to pay a person on time, a person who does work for us, where the halacha is that it's a person who does work for us in a situation where the expectation is that a person gets paid immediately following the work. So there's a mitzvah min haTorah to pay that person on time. What does on time mean? On time means that if the person was working at nighttime, let's say a person was a babysitter or a person was driving somewhere at night, then you have to pay them before sunrise the next morning. And if a person is working during the daytime, then you have to pay them before shkia, before sunset. And that's a mitzvah d'oraisa. If a person, let's say got a haircut somewhere in the afternoon, there's a mitzvah to pay the person on time that day. And let's say they realize they don't have any money on them, there would really be a chiyuv, a mitzvah min haTorah, for a person to run and go find money and get back and pay that person before sunset on that day. Now, if the person is mochel, if the barber, let's say, says no, it's okay, I don't mind, and he says it's okay to push it off, then the halacha is not over the halacha, but there's still a mitzvah to be mekayim by paying a person on the day that you're supposed to pay him. What's more, the poskim say, it's important for a person to try to pay attention to this. When we pay a cab driver, let's say we take a taxi somewhere, and we pay the taxi driver, we're not just on paying. It's mamash a kiyum of a mitzvah d'oraisa, paying a person on time. Biyomo scharo is a mitzvah d'oraisa, and we have to realize, when we're paying somebody, we're mamash being mekayim. This mitzvah. Another example, let's say if a person has a babysitter, and the babysitter comes in the evening and watches the kids, so there's a mitzvah d'oraisa to pay them before the sunrise the next morning. That means when the parents get home, they say, oh, you know what, I don't know, I don't have money, I'll get to you tomorrow. So again, even if the babysitter is mochel, the halacha is, a person maybe is not going to be over the isser, but there's still a mitzvah to pay the person on time and to pay a person then. The question is giving a person a tip, is that considered to be paying for services? In other words, am I mekayim that mitzvah of biyomo when I pay a person for the tip, when I pay for the food in a restaurant or something like that, so then I'm just paying for what I ate. I'm not paying the schar. But when I pay a tip, I'm paying to the person, the person themselves for the work that they gave. That's an interesting question. I'll just share with you one other interesting halacha about this. I sent years ago a fax question when I was learning these halachos to Rav Yashuv, Zechron Livracha, and one of the questions that I asked is the following. The Chavetz Chaim says in the Sefer Avos Chesed, he writes that this halacha even applies to children, and he writes, let's say a gabbai tells some kids that he's going to give them candies if they help him clean up the shul. So the halacha is there's a mitzvah d'oraisa to pay them, quote unquote, on time and to give them those candies, and he can't afterwards say, no, I was just joking. And the Chavetz Chaim writes that when it comes to children, a person has to be even more makpid, because a kid can't be mochel, and if they're not being mochel, then a person really is over this isser of not paying a person on time without any possibility for mechila. So the question I sent to Rav Yashuv, said, what about as a parent? Let's say that a parent tells their children, if you clean up your room, or if you help get ready for Shabbos or one of these things, I'll give you candy, or I'll give you pizza, or I'll give you something like that. So I asked, does this halacha apply? And what's the difference? It means that, let's say the kid does something wrong afterwards, I wouldn't be allowed to punish them or something to take away, this privilege if there's a mitzvah d'oraisa to pay it to them, or to push it off for another time, to tell them, okay, we're not going to get the pizza tonight, we'll get it another time, so does this halacha apply? So the answer he sent back was interesting. He said he doesn't consider that it would apply over here, since when a parent does this to a child, offers an incentive, they're doing it la'odedo, kedei la'odedo, he wrote, like in order to encourage the kid to do it. They're not doing it as payment for services rendered, because the kid cleaned up their room that they got it. Anyway, I just thought I would speak for a few minutes about this halacha of biyomo scharo, mitzvah d'oraisa, to pay a person on time, not to push off payment, and an important mitzvah to try to remember and be aware of. All right, have a wonderful Shabbos. Bye bye.